Hello and welcome, I'm NEJE 42 and in this episode I'm going to show you how to use the GPIO ports to turn an LED light on and off. Okay, so if you can see on the screen right in front of you right now, I will have the electronics that I have set up with the Raspberry Pi. So continuing on from the last two episodes of this, we have just plugged in to the power at the top here. That's just the power lead in. We do have the keyboard still connected, but I'm not using that or anything. And as you can see in there, the pins are in use. We're using the far left up pin and then 6 along to the right of that as well. And that is actually two very important pins. The far top left one is a general ground, I believe, and there's a couple of other ones around as well which are grounds, but this is the one that I'll choose to use this time. The ground pin being this brown wire, and then the black pin here is the live, sorry, the black wire here is the live, and that goes over to here. Now, by default, when you turn the Raspberry Pi on, it will just apply a blanket amount of power over to all the pins, I believe, and this is all the pins. That is all the pins right there. This is a Raspberry Pi 3, I believe, Model 2. So yeah, it's one of the more up-to-date ones. It's not the most up-to-date one right now, but it's the second from that. Yeah, and you need to use that pin there because that's the one that we'll be programming later on to turn this light on and off. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see. But this light is currently on, but low voltage. And what we're going to do is learn how to turn it on and then how to turn it off as well. So the black wire here, I don't know if you've ever used a breadboard before, but the things on the lines here, so things going this way, the things going this way, they are all connected. So these 5 pins here are all one line of power or connection. All the ones along here, including in between the gaps here, are also on one line of connection. So what this essentially does is it connects the first pin here, which is from the board, through this resistor, which is a 330 ohm resistor, into this pin here, which is also linked with the long pin of the LED, which obviously goes through the long pin of the LED, down back into the board, and then through around to the neutral. So that is how the electronics work on this. Let's go over to the programming now and we'll see how that is. Okay, so to program on this device, what you need to do is you need to go to the little Raspberry up here, and then we have programming. There's a programming tab, and then that takes you down to here. You have the Python 2 and 3, which is using idle as a thing. You can usually use Scratch. I've used a little bit of Scratch, but I don't like Scratch as much. Although it is still pretty good, maybe for teaching maybe kids or something like that, I find it very, very limiting. So if you go to Python 3 idle, here you get the Python 3.5.3 shell, and this is Python. So this is the compiler. I think it works. I'm not fully understanding on Python just yet, but it does seem to be very similar to a couple of other languages that I've tried. And yeah, in that sense, it's quite familiar, most of the stuff that I've got through from it so far. If we can go to recent file, well, sorry, you won't have this. Go to new file, and what this does is it opens up the text editor for Python. So if you've never done any programming before, I'd recommend you take like some kind of course, or even like a short like video tutorial series or something like that on Python. I'm not going to be the greatest at teaching programming because I'm not great at teaching programming. But if you want to do anything in here, there's a couple of different things you can do. So we could start with Hello World, I suppose. That's a way that most people start learning programming. So with Python, it has pretty much all the stuff required to compile everything you need. So all you need to do is type in print, and the brackets, and then the hyphens, or whatever you call them, and you could type hello world. and because it's not denoted by semicolons, you don't have to put a semicolon. So you can just put run module. You need to save it obviously first as well. So we'll call this test. Make me save this. Python code. We'll put test. Yeah, there we go. And then as that runs, it'll just say hello world. You can also just type that into here. Really, you can just type print hello world, and that's a very simple hello world tutorial, because all it does is prints hello world, and there you have it. You've done your first foray into programming, well, potentially, and that is how you print stuff out. So you can use that later on if you're with your code, if you're going to be using this with this kind of code, to either more explain what's going on, or just to kind of help you out with things. So now, with that in mind, I'm going to jump straight in and try a little bit more hardcore code, if you would. So what we're trying to do is use the GPIO ports on the Raspberry Pi. So we want to use import space rpi.gpio as GPIO, and then you want to go import time. Now, what these two do is it's very similar to include files if you're using like C++, I suppose, if you've ever done any programming with C++ before. But you need to include the different libraries in order to have the functionality that you want to have. So rpi.gpio would be the Raspberry Pi codes that you need to run stuff with the GPIO pins. Time would be the one that allows you to use different time commands. So the one that we'll be using in this tutorial is sleep. So that allows it to give 1 second between what you're doing, pretty much. Now what we want to do is we want to write some quick up top files just to set the program up. And what you want to do is do GPIO dot set mode, then the brackets GPIO dot board. Now what this does is it sets the mode for the pins that we have, and you can have loads of different types of layouts. I'm not fully aware of all the different types of layouts that there are available, but if you look it up, I'm sure it'll be quite easy to find. If you type in that command into Google or something like that, I'm sure you'll find the information that you need. GPIO.setup, and then in this we have 7. Is it 7? Oh, what's this pin? This might be actually pin 21. GPIO.out. Yeah, I wrote down some codes to remember for this, and it might actually have slightly backfired on me because I might have forgotten which pin I did use. Both times I was completely wrong. So we have here the pin layout. This is one that I found online. It's on Microsoft Docs. This is 39. This is ground. This is the one that we have the ground plugged into, and this one here, GPIO 5, is actually 29, not 21, or 7 indeed. It is 29. So just move it down. We'll change this to 29. GPIO.out, and then we'll go to the next line, and what we want to do is we want to type in what we want to do is something called a for loop. So we want to do for x in range, then in the brackets 0, no, like 2 or 3, something like that, and we'll do semicolon. Okay, now when you press enter, notice that it automatically jolts the line in. It automatically tabs in for this loop, and that is how things are denoted in this language. So if something was on this line, then it would be out of the loop. If it was in this line, if it was on this line, it would be in the loop. So you go GPIO.output, and then our pin is 29. So we're 29. GPIO.output 29 true. And then we go GPIO.output 29 false. Now, what this does is it turns the light on, and then it turns the light off in really quick succession. and that that is what that does. Now there's another thing that we haven't actually used at all in here, but firstly I'll just close this off. So in order to close this off, just to save yourself some issues with coding and stuff like that, you want to put GPIO.cleanup, and what this will do is it will actually just clean up some of the codes and stuff like that, and probably reset everything back to normal. And we'll put underneath that, we'll say lights on, and then underneath that, copy that, paste that again, we'll do lights off. Then it will break the loop, go to GPIO.cleanup, and that will be that's a good one, or whatever. And if you look at this video to the Raspberry Pi, at the Raspberry Pi on my left, but well, in front of you I suppose, we'll click Run Module, and what it will do is it just blinked the light. Don't know if you saw that, it might have been over in a flash, but it blinked the light in a very quick succession. So, and in here it did lights on, lights off, lights on, lights off, lights on, lights off, and that was it blinking the light the 3 times, but I only actually saw it happen once. Hopefully it didn't blow the light bulb, but this was the correct pin, which is good. The lights went on and the lights went off, as they should have done. Now, one thing that we didn't use in this session was time. So, as you can notice here, GPIO is defined here. So this means anything which starts with GPIO would be related to this, I suppose. And then the full stop denotes the function that is. So if you type in this into Google, you'll probably find like all the commands that you can get with that, or maybe there's a way to do that in here, I'm not actually sure yet, but yeah, if you search that in Google and then functions, it should come up with the whole list of every function that you have. I don't actually have that on me, but that's how you can find more information on that if you want to know other stuff that you can do with that. Print is just the standard library from it, so that's that. And we have here time. So if you want to add a little bit of time in between these things, which you probably do because you want to be able to see them, right? You don't type time.sleep, and then we'll put 1 here, and then we want to do one after this whole section as well, because otherwise it would just be on until the end when it would be off, and that's no fun either. You want to see the lights flashing, right? So we'll go Run Module. Right here, you need to save the source. Damn it again. And see, it turns the light on, off, on, off, on, off. And there we have it. We've just managed, with this small section of code here, like not even, what is this? 15 lines. 15 lines of code here. And that I feel like that looks quite neat as well, actually. I quite like the look of that. We could have even taken out an extra 1, 2, 3 lines. So, yeah. This amount of code here, and we have created an LED light that turns on and off. Now, it's not going to be saving the world, it's not going to be creating killer robots just yet, but that is the start of a new era for the way that you may be thinking about things, if you have been following this tutorial. So, yeah, so that's about it for now. I will come back in the next one, and I'll try and teach you something else that you can do with this. It might be just maybe controlling 2 or so different things, maybe 2 LEDs at the same time. If you can't figure that one out, if you can figure that one out, try it and let me know if it happens the same way that I do it in the next one as well. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. I don't really think follow me on Twitter, that's @NEJE442, and thanks for watching.